Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. My guest today is a friend of mine's, a former neighbor of mine. This was how I met her. She goes by TL Martin, or Tani as I know her. She inspired me to take on my writing career. I would like you to just introduce yourself. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, Tani.
Sure. Hi, my name's Tawny, like you said. I'm a 32-year-old mother of three, and I've been writing since I was about 25, taking it seriously since then, and I've been publishing romance mainly for the past 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Mhm.
want to tell people how I met you because I mentioned that you were my neighbor. I
Yeah,
mean, literally, like right next door, we shared a patio. Our kids were about the same age.
yeah,
And they would play together. And it just so happened that you were a writer, and I was interested in writing too. And
yes,
you would tell me about your life and how I know it's hard to raise kids,
yeah,
and you were sneaking in like an hour or two here and there, 15 minutes, getting very little sleep, and
yes,
you finished the book, and that just got me going. I was like, she could do it, I could do it, I'm gonna do
yes.
it. Can
That's
you tell people about that first book, how hard it was to write that?
It was hard. The first one especially. There's the scheduling logistics, obviously parenting. I was working full time. I had two kids and I was pregnant with the third when I
Oh,
started
jeez.
taking my first novel seriously.
Yeah.
And and so I would usually leave a couple hours early. I'd start work at 7:30 in the morning, and I would leave at like 5 in the morning, so that I could just write in my car.
Mm.
And and my husband would watch the kids at that time until they were able to go to daycare, and that's where I would write. And then at lunchtime, I would go into my car, open up my laptop, and write some more. And then I would get home, get food on the stove for the kids, and write some more. I was Anytime I could do it, even when they were in the bathtub, I'd be sitting there on a chair while they played, writing in the bathroom. I would wake up in the middle of the night and write some more. I was a zombie during the day.
Yeah.
It got, I think part of the difficulty at that time too was not knowing if I would succeed, if the sacrifice would be worth it. So
Yeah.
it took a lot out of me physically, and just not knowing if anyone would want to read it, and also if I would be any good. Um,
Yeah.
that messes with you as you go. So I would
Hmm.
have to push any questions, any self doubt, any negativity out of my mind, and just keep on writing.
So where did that come from? Because I don't think that's a skill that a lot of people possess, and most people probably fail because of that. What you're saying, they let the self doubt creep in, and they don't have that stick to itiveness to say.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. And I'm not sure I have an easy answer. I don't know because before I had kids, I actually had a lot of full time, even though I had a lot of spare time, I mean.
Mm, yeah.
But even though I did work full time and I worked on the weekend also, you have hours when you come home. You don't realize before you have kids, you have so much time. And I would always think about writing and never have the discipline to do it. And I honestly don't know why, two kids and pregnant with the third, I suddenly found the motivation.
When it was at its most difficult to do it,
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly. And it's interesting because I work the same way now. I actually work better when I think I don't have time. If I
Hmm.
dedicate time to writing and I have this huge window of time to just write, I have a lot of trouble with that. I just stare at the page and don't know what to do. But if I'm squeezing it in between all the chaos of my life,
Yeah.
I get a whole bunch done.
Yeah, that brings up questions about the creative process and how it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
You seem to be more on the other side of like the not calling you a procrastinator, but
No,
in college
that's a great description of me
okay.
actually.
But in college, when people have their term papers and stuff, they talk about the procrastinator, the person that starts writing the night before,
Yeah.
and that's like the only time they could do it, and they do their best work because they know
Yes.
it's no time for garbage, it's no
Yeah.
time for messing around. I have to
Yeah.
get this done.
That's very
But
true.
I'm on the other side of that spectrum. I like
Okay.
when it's listen, you have a bunch of time,
Hmm.
relax,
Hmm.
go ahead and just let it kind of flow.
Yeah.
But and for me it comes in two stages though. Like that's sort of like the first stage, getting stuff down.
Hmm.
But in the rewriting working stage, I'm different. It could be either or.
Interesting.
As long as I have the words there,
Yeah.
now I have something to sort of like chew on. I'm different that way.
Wow, yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. And I do prefer being able to relax and take my time. I just don't get as much done.
Hmm.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it's funny because if I have like when I was in college, when I did have to turn in a paper, I actually did prefer to get it done right away. I
Mm.
did. I was like that when it came to schoolwork, but I guess when it comes to motivating myself, especially because I'm self-published, so I don't have a
Right.
publisher telling me you need to get this done by. Um,
Right.
what I have now that I didn't have when I started writing is I have a fan base. So that does help motivate me.
Yeah.
I have readers email me, when's the next book coming? What do you have next?
Right.
Can I
Right.
get a teaser? So that is very helpful as far as making sure that I am getting more work done and I'm not slacking off when I can.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I'm privileged to have known you from that time before you published, and to now, and I'm so motivated by you. You're an inspiration to me
Thank
in
you.
that way. I just want to say thank you for all that.
Oh man. Well, thank you. I'm still very small time, but I really appreciate that.
We all got to start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk about where you're from. Um, I know you got married and have some kids. Can you tell us just a little bit about your life a little bit,
Yeah.
like before I met you?
Yeah. I'm from California, from the LA area. I went to a normal public school. I guess here I can bring up. Do you want me to
Sure,
start from
whatever you
like
want.
childhood type thing, or
Wherever you want, Tanya. It's your show.
okay, okay. Well, I was born in California, and I went to normal public school until I was 11. And then I joined a group for my religion at the time. I was raised in Scientology. So I joined the Sea organization. So I moved away from home at that time. And I did that until I was almost 17. And
Hmm.
then I was kind of just wandering at that time, like not knowing what my goals were.
Right.
I started going to a community college after I got my diploma and still was kind of wondering. I was majoring in animal science actually, and I had a minor in English. So, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have a set goal to be an author. It was never a realistic dream of mine. It was just something I enjoyed doing.
Right.
Um, and I moved to Texas randomly in the middle of college. I decided I wanted somewhere. I just started moving somewhere every year, and my first out of state move was Texas. My sister said, "Hey, I'm in
Okay.
Texas right now. Why don't you come here?"
Okay, so you knew someone there.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
yeah, she was there, and so I said sure, and I hopped on a plane and used the what little I had in my savings, got an apartment, and the first week there, I met who would become my husband. So,
Right.
and we moved very quickly. So we were
Yeah.
married within a few months, had our first baby by the end of that year, moved back to
Uh-huh.
California.
Wow, that's quick. Yeah, that's
Yes.
quick.
Yeah. That was very fast. And I was 21, I think, when we got married. And then 22 when we got pregnant and had our baby when I had just turned 23. And then I had another baby at 24. And then I had another baby at 27.
Yeah, and I remember the last one, JJ,
Yeah.
because when I met you, the two little girls were there,
Yeah.
and then my two little ones when they would always play together.
Yeah.
That was adorable experience.
Yeah. They loved each other.
I remember your little one, Mila, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would play the Tickle Monster game, and the game was they had to run away from me and not let them catch them so I could tickle them.
Yeah.
But she was like I like the tickles, catch me.
That's,
She was adorable.
that's very her.
Yeah.
Yeah. They love that. They still ask about you guys all the time and look at your
Oh,
pictures on Facebook. A
that's
reunion is due.
awesome. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah. But with all this COVID and everything going on,
I know. In the
yeah.
future.
Yeah. But let's continue on because I love your story that you're a young woman, you're figuring your way out through life, which is hard
Mhm.
because I don't like to use the term a lost soul.
Mhm.
And the only reason why I don't use the term a lost soul is because I feel that every human being, well, maybe not every, but most human beings are a lost soul because we're born into this world and we don't know where we came from before
Mhm.
that. We don't know where we're going, why are we here. I mean, if you become religious or you start following some practices, well, then you have something to go off.
Right.
But other people have other practices and other thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that brings up like a whole other issue.
Mhm.
But you're definitely you're trying to make your way through life. You've always you said you liked writing. Where did that come from? When did that start for you?
I I used to read a lot ever since I can remember, ever since I knew how to read. And I've always been a little bit of a loner, which surprises people because I'm social. I think it's called an introverted extrovert, where
I think
you
yeah.
can socialize easily in social situations, but you do prefer to be alone. And I am a homebody, so I've always, even though I can socialize easily and I'm comfortable in social situations, I just prefer to be alone or with my family. That's my happy place. So
Yeah.
I think because of that, I've always, maybe that's what bonded me with books and writing. I don't remember when I first picked up a pen, but I do remember writing down my thoughts constantly when I was a teenager.
Like a journal?
Yeah, I had lots of
Okay.
journals, and I went through some really dark moments, especially
Yeah.
when I was about, from 15, 16, 17, 18. um,
Yeah.
I, I was a very depressed for a certain time period there,
Okay.
and I just wrote all the time. I could be in my room nonstop writing and lose track of
Wow.
time completely.
That was sort of your outlet, your way of,
Mhm.
of, of handling it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's probably why
Mhm.
you prefer to write in the first person as
Oh,
well.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I mostly read in the third person, most of the books that I would pick up, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, what comes naturally to me is writing in the first person.
Yeah, and you do it well.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back the first book. Can you tell people a little bit about that first book?
Um,
Where did the inspiration come, and then tell them a little bit about that book?
yeah, well, my first one actually, the very first one I ever published isn't available anymore. I pulled it off the shelves.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a young adult fantasy, urban fantasy, and it was called Singing Fire. I don't know if you remember
Hmm.
that one, but
I read it. I read that
you
one.
read that one. Okay, so
I have a signed copy from
you
you.
do? Okay, that's fine.
Yes, I still have it somewhere in my books over here.
Wow. Well, I was really at that point just really having fun with writing. It was an amazing experience, but I was still struggling to find my voice. I sounded like I think a lot of different people at that time
Mm.
rolled into one, and I had
Yeah, yeah.
found what genre I was really comfortable with. It was kind of my process of getting to know myself as a writer. So it was a very essential for me to take that step, but it does need
Hmm.
a rewrite now that I'm at a different point.
Hmm.
I have readers who are still asking for the sequel that never came out because
Yeah,
because
yeah. I was gonna bring that up later
yes,
too.
because my writing changed so much and my genre changed from fantasy to romance, from young adult to adult. So
Yeah.
at some point, I'll go back to that and I'll re release it when the sequel's ready, also.
Okay. So yeah, I noticed a transition because I was around you while you were still writing that, and when you ended up finally publishing it,
Hmm.
you transitioned in a surprising way.
Yeah.
You got what do you call it, romance.
Hmm.
The little bits I haven't read them, but the little bits that you've shared
Hmm.
are pretty hot.
Well, thank you. I write, there's a lot of different subgenres to romance, but so
Uh-huh.
so far I've done paranormal romance. That was the first one I published when I stepped into this genre. And then I did a dark romance, which became my bestseller. That one's called
Which one is
The
that one?
Dark.
The dark. Okay.
Yeah, Dancing in the Dark. And it is,
Oh, Dancing in the Dark.
there are triggers. So definitely for anyone who does look up my books, if you're curious, read the trigger warnings, take them seriously,
Yeah.
because I do go dark. So
Yeah. I mean, that's okay. I think the art comes where it comes from, and as an artist, for me, it's like it's not us to judge it,
mhm.
but we could be aware of people. Some people are sensitive to these things, so
Yeah.
yeah, like even with these podcasts that I'm doing, I
Hmm.
when I before I post them, I'm gonna put like, hey, this is what you're gonna hear about. If that's not something you're interested in,
Hmm.
please walk away.
Yeah.
But I am not about censoring my art. I'm not about censoring other people. But yes, we should let them know like this is where it's going.
Exactly. Yeah, just give them a heads up. And some of the, I mean, some of the things I cover in my books are pretty sensitive issues. I have a
Yeah.
contemporary romance that has suicide. So there are
Right.
things that I just would want readers to be aware of, because I don't want to. I just don't want to trigger anyone in a negative way. But
Yeah.
I do hope to write things that either could be an escape for people, or
Hmm.
maybe that they can find something they can relate to inside of them.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most of all the messages that I get from my readers. The most common thing that I hear is people thanking me for giving them characters they can connect to,
Yeah.
and for moving them emotionally or inspiring them. So that's very touching to hear, and it always keeps me going also.
Have you gotten any negative feedback on
Oh
some of the
yeah,
stuff that you wrote about?
absolutely. I mean, I get every book I've written gets negative reviews.
Yeah.
But that's normal. I can look up my favorite authors and I'll find people who hated
Yeah.
what they hated about that author's work I loved. So it's
Yes,
just,
exactly.
reading is so subjective. I have people who think, oh, like my dark romance, that wasn't dark
Hmm.
enough. And then I have others who say, whoa, too dark for me. And they're like, I had to
Too
close it
dark. Yeah.
halfway through. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just so subjective. But what's more important to me is knowing my writing is fine,
Hmm.
and that people are able to connect on some level. I think my biggest fear when I started writing was that the reviews that would come in would say, this person can't write. Why does she think she can
Oh,
do this? Her actual writing
right.
sucks. And thankfully, I
Right.
haven't gotten anything like that. The only negativity I've gotten has been just on subjective material. So I'm like, okay, good. So
Yeah.
I can keep going.
Yeah, I noticed that in my writing too, because sometimes I'll get into some violent stuff,
Hmm.
or I'll get into like a sex scene or a love scene. And I try not to get. I mean, it's not pornographic, but even still, with certain people, if you use like a metaphor, they're like, "Well, I know what you're talking about. Like, why would you talk about that?" And I'm like, "Okay." You know what I mean? Like, okay,
Yeah.
look, maybe this book isn't for you. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, I think if you're clear on the genre, like I write adult romance. So when someone reads
Hmm.
my book, they expect a sex scene at least.
Right. Yeah.
But there's romance and then there's smut. And I do like smut,
Yes.
but you have to know, like I think that's totally
Yeah.
cool to like that, but you need to know what you're reading, because
Right.
if you're looking for smut, you're not going to get that in my books either. You'll get steam,
Right.
you'll get sexual tension, you'll get great chemistry, but I definitely focus on character building. There's always back plots. There's always side characters with things going on. There's usually mystery. There's usually trauma. So if someone's just looking for smut, they'd want to look for authors who specialize in that.
Right. And there are people who do that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And those sell really well too. So you just, as a writer, want to find what really clicks for you, just what comes naturally, what flows for you. And for me, it just happened to be romance.
Yeah. I agree with everything that you're saying. I just want to add a little bit to it because
Mhm,
if people want the smut, that's fine. I see nothing wrong with it too. I'll read some of it or whatever.
mhm,
But for me, the hottest scenes, whether it's I'm reading something or even if I'm watching something,
mhm.
there's something like when it's covered. I don't want to say covered, but when you don't go that into detail, something hotter
Yeah.
about it. Sort of like when the woman gives the guy the look.
Mhm.
She doesn't have to say
Yeah.
something or like just those little things to me are hotter.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just
I'm
me, you know what I mean?
no, I'm so with you on that. And actually, my the type of romance I write is specifically called slow burn romance
Yes.
because there's a lot of tension and a lot of buildup
Uh-huh.
and a lot of development until you finally get to that point. I have trouble
Yeah.
connecting with, like sometimes you open a book and then immediately sex scene, and I can't
Right.
like that. I need to know who the characters are first. How did that happen? Like what's going on
Right.
in
The
their
build up.
life?
Yeah.
Yes, like what?
Yeah.
Who are they? You know.
Yeah. Are you willing to share a little something that you've written? You have
I
something prepared or?
I actually didn't bring anything, and I did think of that. I did consider it,
Uh-huh.
but I've never read any of my work aloud. And
Uh-huh. That's okay.
I think there's something really personal about reading it, my readers reading it to themselves. I might mess it up, like I don't
Uh,
know.
it's okay because I'll share it somehow. I'll link it. You send me something,
Yeah, sure.
and they could read it and they could find your books and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So now you're married. You
Mhm,
write your first book,
mhm,
and we were living in California. We're living in Burbank.
mhm.
When did you move out of there?
Let's see. We moved out of Burbank only, what was it? We're in November now. It was just a little over a year ago, I think. We moved to, it was August of last year. So we moved to Pine Mountain Club, California, which is
Hmm.
an hour and a half to 2 hours outside of LA. It's actually a great little community for
It
friends.
looks beautiful. I
Yeah.
seen your post. I'm like, oh, this
Yes.
looks perfect for writing. Yes.
Yes, it was, I mean, my kids are still, they're so sad we left that area. And one day I might move back, I'm not sure, but they have
Right.
beautiful winters. We had a couple bear break-ins, which was fun for the kids.
What? I take it back. I'm not moving there. No.
They're actually, I mean, obviously, yeah,
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with a bear break-in? I've never had anyone tell me this.
yeah. So, I mean, the bears there are, they're very used to humans, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They're used to human food. So once they get a taste of
Hmm.
that, that's what they want. But
Uh-oh.
it is fairly easy to scare them away. You know, you want to make loud noises. We used to have this giant bear that everyone in the community called Cinnamon because she was
Uh-huh.
like a cinnamon color, and she
Yeah.
was huge. I don't the biggest bear I've
Oh
ever
my God.
seen, and now that I've lived there, I've seen a lot of bears. So
Yeah.
she was massive, and she would come up our steps in the middle of the night, and literally the entire house would shake. It would feel like an earthquake
Knock
if he was
knock.
walking on the outside
You got
steps.
some
Yes,
cookies?
but it was also very lazy. So if we just locked our gate at the top story, outside on our top porch, she wouldn't. She would try to get in, and once she realized it was locked, she would just walk away.
How did your children respond to that?
You know, my youngest, JJ, who was 3 when we were living there, he's 4 now. He would get very scared. But it
Oh,
was
wow.
exciting too. Like now he talks about it and he's like, "Oh, that was the coolest thing ever."
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
when you would hear the shakes in the middle of the night, like feel the house shaking and hear the thumps, like
Oh,
I get
wow.
why it scared him. But
Did she growl or anything like that?
no, not this one. She actually,
Okay.
I think she was put down recently. Unfortunately, it was really sad.
Oh, wow.
But I think it was becoming a dangerous situation. You know?
She was getting too close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Cinnamon.
What's that?
I said poor cinnamon.
Yeah, poor cinnamon. That's right. Um,
So some people have like, they have gangs in their neighborhood they have to
yeah,
watch out for. You had bears.
that's right.
I don't know which one is worse. I really don't know.
I mean, thankfully, all the bears we ran into were pretty chill, I guess, if you can describe them that way. The one
Yeah.
that really got inside, we were out of town. My son was in the hospital at the time, actually, so we were in LA, and my neighbor sent me a video of a bear, a teenager black bear, coming out of our kitchen window. Like he had whipped cream on his snout.
What?
Yeah.
It's like a cartoon.
And he had, I guess, poured the dog food outside somehow. There was some dog food on our roof. And when we got
Hmm.
home, it was insane. There was just food everywhere. All of our cabinets were open. Our fridge was broken. Like he had gotten all the steak, salmon, but not only that, like desserts. He ate all the Hershey's syrup, like all the
I'm
whipped
pretty sure I've
cream.
seen this
Yes.
comedy somewhere. Or it's Three Little Bears, right? Who's sleeping in my bed?
Yeah,
Jeez.
it was intense to clean up. And I didn't know bears, like they have this oil that they spread with every step. So I never knew that. Did you know that?
Yeah, me neither. No.
No, so
Wow.
you literally can slip on it and it's so stinky. It smells awful. It took a
Oh,
lot of
jeez.
scrubbing to get rid of that smell.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's a crazy experience. Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, you did your first book. You made a transition into a more romantic thing. Can you tell us about the process? I think you wrote three more books after the first one.
Yeah. Well, my first romance, do you mean? Because I have four romances out. So I did Touched by Death, which was my paranormal romance. I think I published that.
That was the first one, right?
Yes, that came out
Okay.
in 2017. Then I
Hmm.
published the dark romance, Dancing in the Dark, in 2018. Um,
And that's your most popular
that
one, right?
yeah, actually, my current most popular is a different one, but it still hasn't done quite as well. Like Dancing in the Dark on the first few months after the release was um, just did incredible. But and
Mm-hmm.
my releases now are still doing really well, so I'm very grateful for that. And as
Hmm.
far as consistency goes, they're selling on a good scale consistently every day. So that's nice
Hmm.
to see. Dancing in the Dark, it did hit high numbers at first, but then it sort of fizzled, and
Right.
it was, it still sells consistently, but now it's on a smaller scale than my newer
Yeah.
releases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the newer release, you did a thing where you released them pretty close to each other, sort of back to back, right?
Yeah, I didn't release anything in 2019, so
Hmm.
I was writing two books at the same time. That's why. So it took me
Tell
longer.
tell us about that. How do you do that? It's hard enough to write one book. Why are you writing two books?
What happened was when I was writing my dark romance, Dancing in the Dark, I went to such a dark place mentally. It was actually
Mm,
really hard for me.
mm,
So to get out of that, I needed something really happy and light. So I started writing Blue Skies, which is one of the ones I just released. It's a contemporary
okay.
high school romance. But as I was
Oh,
writing
okay.
that, it was so happy and light that I was like, I need something a little darker too now. So I started
Yeah.
writing Liar Liar, which also just came out. And that's also a high
That one I
school.
remember reading about. I wanted to
Okay.
ask you about that character and where all that came from
Yeah.
because it's kind of juicy. It's kind of hot.
Yeah.
It's gonna be honest about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just wanted to try something new. With each book, I try to do something new. So
Well, tell us about that character, the female
the one
character.
in the
I'm guessing she's the protagonist. In the story. I'm guessing
yeah, in Liar
for Liar
Liar.
Liar. Yeah. Yeah.
She, readers have had very mixed feelings on her. She's very she's been through trauma. So she was sold by her father to another man.
Right. At an early age,
Yeah,
right?
at an early age. And
Hmm.
then after escaping him, she lived on the streets for a little bit before she was discovered by a family. She was discovered hiding behind their house, and they adopted her. And
Hmm.
that's where she meets her new adoptive brother. And that
Mm-hmm.
is where the taboo element comes in because, yeah,
Exactly. Yes.
the romance is
Yes.
between them. But, I don't know, for someone looking for like taboo smut, they wouldn't enjoy this probably. This is definitely more, the hero in
Like you
it.
said, a slow
It is a
burn
slow
type
burn.
of.
Yeah, all my books are
Right.
slow burn, and the hero in this one, his name's Easton. He's the brother. He
Uh-huh.
is just very good. He's a very good
Mm.
person. So that's not very popular in romance right now. The most popular thing at the moment is,
The good girl and the bad guy.
yes,
Is that what it
yeah,
is? That's that's
exactly.
that's from the Bible.
Yeah.
It's been around forever. Yeah.
Yes, and it's definitely, there's a whole alpha male kick, and I love alpha males too. But
Mm-hmm.
this guy, he, I guess I tried to make him so that he was still very masculine because it's a part of who he
Mm-hmm.
is, but he's
Mm-hmm.
also just genuinely a caring person who needs as much love as Eva, the heroine, needs. So it's something that
Right.
they're able to provide for each other that no one else has been able to give them. So there's a sweetness in that also.
That's so cool, and it's hard to do. And I know as a writer,
Hmm.
uh, sometimes you can go the easy path,
Yeah,
but like you're not helping yourself out. I think as a writer to grow,
yeah,
your readers after a while are gonna be like, oh, they get bored of it. Like you're just gonna have to go to tough places.
yeah.
You're just gonna have to do, and you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortableness
That is
of it
so
all.
true. Yes, that's actually where I get my kicks. Going to boundary, pushing my boundaries. I can't write any other way, and I don't know if that's smart or not, but I it's the only way I can do it. I sit down thinking, okay, maybe this, even the book I told you, Blue Skies, where it started out really happy and light, and the heroine in that one is very, she's just all sunshine. She's a hippie, and she's awesome. I love her, but even by the end of that book, there's a lot of darkness, and I don't know why I always go there,
Yeah.
but
So let me play your psychologist then. Let me, sit down on my couch. Let me psychoanalyze you here a little bit, because I'm interested in that. Because yeah, I'm very dark too.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess we have that in common. But for me, the time that we spent together, I think we lived there together as neighbors for about 3 years, maybe a little more. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I never would have expected you to go this way.
Right.
Yeah, so it kind of caught me off guard, but it's excellent. I love what you're doing. But where do you think that kind of comes from? Because you don't seem like that person. You're like the sweetest. You're a mom, you know what I mean? But there's something there that's
Mm.
going on.
Um,
So a lot of writers, I'll just try to help you out. A lot of writers say that you write about the things you don't do
mhm,
or you've never done. You sort of fantasize about it because
mhm.
it's safe that way.
Sure. Well, are you talking about specifically the romance part of it or all of the?
The darkness, the romance, yeah, sure,
Okay.
all of it, yeah.
I definitely think it's a mix. I think on the foundation, there's a lot I can relate to um,
Hmm.
on a deeper level, but not in an
Hmm.
obvious way. A reader can read my book and not actually learn much about me on the surface level.
Right.
But deeper, there's always something connecting me to my characters, even if it's not
Yeah.
the same experiences as them or the same fantasies as them. There's always
Hmm.
some level. There's something in me that brings out who they are on some level,
Hmm.
but it's something I guess I don't even recognize it all the time. It's so, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Subliminal. It's just in the subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that people who knew you, who like they say they meet you before they read something like that. I think they'll be surprised to see that. Oh, you wrote this
Yeah,
type of thing. You know what I mean? Do you
I
get
get
that?
that. Yes, I get that
Yeah.
all the time. Actually, when I moved to Pine Mountain Club, my neighbor there happened to be a reader, and she immediately went and bought my dark romance. She loved it. She devoured it in like a day. But she was like,
Whoa.
"What? This came from you?" And she actually majored in psychology. So she sat me down and she was like, "Tell me about your
Yeah,
life."
yeah. Yeah.
She's good.
I think people read
Yeah.
read into things too. They take it too far. Like if you write
Mm-hmm.
something about I think Stephen King talked about this,
Mm-hmm.
that some people were like afraid to I guess approach him or talk to him because they thought he was like some weird psycho killer. Like, no, dude, this is fantasy. This is just a story. Like,
Yeah,
chillax. There's no I don't have any bodies buried in my backyard.
that's right. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly where it comes from, but I can say that I do relate to my characters in a lot of ways that aren't obvious.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's great. Thank you for doing that. And for sharing it with everyone. Do you want to promote them? Like, how do people find your books?
Yeah, sure. Well, they're all on Amazon. They're at Barnes and Noble. They're on iBooks, Nook, Kobo. At least that's all the ebook versions. Paperbacks only on
Right.
Amazon. But
So they look T.L. Martin?
yeah,
Is that
it's T.L.
okay?
Martin for Tawny
Hmm.
Lee Martin.
Tiny Lee. I love that name. I don't know if I told you this, but I have a character in the book is a captain of a very mysterious ship that disappears in the fog, and the captain's name is T.L. Martin.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't know that.
That's a shout out to you for inspiring me to write. So I always remember people who I come across people in my life, and I try to appreciate certain people who inspire me, or just you just meet somebody random for some reason. You can never forget that person, but you've met thousands of people, you've forgotten the rest, but for some reason you remember the other people. I think that the universe is kind of talking to us
Yeah.
in a certain way, and I think out of all places, I moved to this one place randomly. You're my neighbor. You're a writer. The world was telling me, pick up your pen and pencil, start writing, dude.
Yes. Wow. Well, I'm honored to hear that. And I agree. I mean, you're an inspiration to me too. I loved all of our talks on the patio. We would get all philosophical and it was great. I always loved talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much. So before we go, because we are running a little bit out of time, I just
Mhm.
want to see your perspective on things. Like, how was this 2020? It's a crazy year. How was it for you?
It actually it is crazy, but I had a really rough last year. The end of last year, my son,
You talking about your son?
yeah, he was
Do you want to share that and talk about the hospital and everything?
sure. Do you have time for that?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. We got
Okay.
time.
Yeah, so he was 3 at the time, and he ended up being diagnosed with a really rare condition called ADEM, and he basically had inflammation in his brain, and it was causing him to not be able to walk, not be able to talk. His speech
That's so
was
scary.
slurred.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
so scary. It was terrifying. And I stayed in the hospital with him at CHLA, which, by the way, for anyone listening, if you ever have a concern about your kids, CHLA is the place to be. We did go
Yes,
to a
yes.
different hospital at first in Bakersfield, and they had children's specialists, a whole children's section, and they were not familiar at all with ADEM. And
This sounds pretty rare, right?
yeah, it's very rare, so I understood why they weren't. And they were great there. They knew something serious was going on, but they didn't know what. So they had us flown to CHLA directly from there. And it was amazing. We were definitely in good hands there. But it was
Yeah.
just, God, it was such a difficult experience. I stayed in the hospital with him, and he was there for a month. So I was away from my daughters, and it was during flu season. They don't allow kids under 12 years old to come up to the rooms, the patient room.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So my time with my daughters was very limited in
Yeah.
person. So it was hard all around, and getting through that was incredible. It just shifts your perspective on things. So
Yeah.
as difficult as 2020 has been, it reminds me to be thankful for our health. I know people who have been getting sick from obviously COVID-19, from all
Hmm.
kinds of other illnesses that are still happening as well. And I have to remember to be in a place of gratitude for everything that we do have.
Be humble.
Exactly. It's just so important.
all of this that we have is it's like so temporary
Yeah.
and fragile.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast too is to share stories like this.
Mhm.
I have a friend who lost a child.
Uh,
She did one of my podcasts. She talks about that.
mhm.
I have a few friends, which is really scary. So I'm super nervous always with my kids. And when I saw that that was going on with you, I think at the time I was contacting you. We were talking, and you were gonna read something of mine,
Yes.
which you never got around to, which is totally fine. I get it. Priorities. Your son, but I remember like I saw you posted something about it, but I think you told me something before you posted
Yeah,
it,
that's right.
and I just remember just praying for you, like please,
Thank you.
God, and luckily everything worked out.
Yes, yeah.
I'm so
It
happy.
was it was a miracle. His strength is just it blows me away.
Yeah, he's a cute kid. All your kids are.
Thank you. Yours too.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much, Tani T.L. Martin. Please, guys, look her up. She is awesome, an awesome person, and an awesome author. Please look her up, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Tani.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for having me.